She prayed for it with certainty. She pictured it clearly. She asked Allah for it again and again, believing it was the missing piece of her happiness. Her heart was attached. Her hopes were detailed. Her tears were real. And then it slipped away. Not slowly, not gently. It ended, it closed, it disappeared. Now she is left asking, why would Allah place that desire in my heart only to remove it? But what if nothing was random? What if the delay was not neglected? What if the silence was not abandonment? What if Allah was shielding her from a future she could not see, a pain she was not meant to carry, a regret she was not meant to live with, a door that would have cost her more than she imagined? Sometimes a woman begs for what feels right, while Allah in His perfect knowledge knows it would slowly break her peace, drain her dignity, or distance her from Him. When Allah protects her from her own du'as, it does not always feel like mercy at first. It feels like a loss. It feels like confusion. It feels like heartbreak. But protection does not always arrive wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it comes disguised as disappointment. And the moment she realizes that Allah did not reject her, He rescued her, is the moment her entire understanding of life begins to change. There are moments in a woman's life when she asks Allah for something with complete sincerity. Her dua is not casual, it is not careless, it comes from a place of hope, trust, and deep emotion. She believes what she is asking for is good. She believes it will bring stability, happiness, or relief. She raises her hands with certainty that Allah hears her, and He does. We must understand something very clearly. When she makes dua with love in her heart, Allah never ignores it. Not a single word is lost. Not a single tear falls unnoticed. The one who created her hears her whisper before it leaves her lips. The sincerity of her heart is seen before the sound reaches the air. So when the outcome turns out differently than she expected, it is not because she was unheard. It is because the answer came wrapped in wisdom instead of desire. Often, we assume that love and sincerity guarantee the exact result we want. But Allah's knowledge is greater than our feelings. She may love something deeply, yet Allah may know it would harm her faith, disturb her peace, or weaken her future. She sees today, He sees tomorrow. She sees the surface, He sees what is hidden. When a door closes after she prayed for it to open, it can feel confusing. It can feel painful. She might question herself, did I not ask properly? Was my dua not strong enough? But that is not how Allah operates. The acceptance of dua is not measured by whether the result matches her request. Sometimes acceptance means protection. Sometimes it means redirection. Sometimes it means something better is being prepared quietly. Allah responds with wisdom, not impulse. He is not influenced by emotion the way we are. He does not give simply because we insist. He gives based on what is best for our dunya and our akhirah. That balance is something only He can maintain perfectly. If He were to grant every request exactly as we wanted it, without His wisdom, we might walk into harm thinking it is happiness. There are times when she begs for someone to stay in her life, believing that person is the source of her comfort. But Allah knows what that attachment might eventually cost her, her dignity, her peace, even her closeness to Him. So He removes it gently, or sometimes suddenly she sees loss. He sees protection. There are times when she prays for a specific opportunity, convinced it is the breakthrough she needs. Yet Allah knows the unseen consequences. He knows the strain it would place on her heart. He knows the distractions it would bring. He knows the lessons she still needs before stepping into something greater. So He delays it, not to punish her, but to prepare her. Wisdom does not always feel comforting in the beginning. It can feel like disappointment. It can feel like unanswered longing. But over time, when clarity comes, she begins to see what Allah saved her from. She begins to understand that what she thought was perfect was incomplete. What she thought was necessary was temporary. A believer matures when she realizes that Allah's no can carry more mercy than a quick yes. His wisdom operates beyond her immediate emotions. He looks at her entire journey, her growth, her faith, her resilience, her akhirah, not just the present moment. When she shifts her perspective from why didn't I get it to what is Allah protecting me from, her heart begins to settle. Trust replaces frustration. Tawakkul replaces anxiety. She understands that her dua was never wasted. It shaped her. It brought her closer to Allah. It taught her reliance. Sometimes the greatest gift is not the thing she asked for, but the strength she gained while waiting. Sometimes the real answer to her dua is a stronger heart, clearer vision, and deeper faith. That is wisdom at work. So when she asks with love and receives something different, she should not see it as rejection. She should see it as refinement. Allah is not denying her goodness. He is choosing the form of goodness that will protect her the most. And when she trusts that, truly trusts that, she begins to walk through life differently, not chasing every desire, but resting in the certainty that whatever Allah chooses is always rooted in mercy and wisdom. Every human being makes decisions based on limited sight. We see what is in front of us, we feel what is in our hearts, we judge based on what appears good, kind, promising, or exciting. But our vision stops at the surface. We cannot see tomorrow clearly, let alone the years that follow. That is where the difference between us and Allah becomes very clear. When she asked for that person, that opportunity, that specific outcome, she was asking based on what she understood at that moment. The words spoken to her sounded sincere. The situation looked stable. The door appeared beautiful. It felt right. But what she did not see was what Allah already knew. Allah knew the hidden weaknesses in that person's character. He knew the conversations that would happen months later. He knew the trials that connection would bring into her life. He knew the tears she might shed if things continued in the direction she desired. She saw affection. He saw the full picture. She saw potential. He saw consequences. And this is not only about relationships. It could be about a job she longed for, thinking it would secure her future. It could be about a move she was convinced would bring happiness. It could be about a plan she carefully designed and prayed would succeed. But Allah knows how each path unfolds. He sees the stress attached to it. He sees the distractions it may cause. He sees the impact on her faith, her peace, and her priorities. The beauty of belief in Allah's wisdom is understanding that He protects us from futures we cannot imagine. Sometimes what looks like a perfect opportunity today carries a heavy cost tomorrow. Sometimes what feels like a blessing in the present could slowly distance her from what truly matters. The heart becomes attached to what it desires. It builds dreams around it. It imagines comfort and stability. But dreams are built on limited knowledge. Allah's knowledge has no limits. He sees every conversation before it happens. He knows every disappointment before it forms. He understands how every choice affects the next chapter of her life. When something is removed from her life, it can feel abrupt, it can feel unfair, it can feel confusing. But what she does not see is the unseen protection at work. Perhaps Allah saved her from humiliation. Perhaps He saved her from regret. Perhaps He saved her from losing herself in a situation that would have drained her dignity. Faith grows when she accepts that her perspective is incomplete. That does not mean her feelings are invalid. Her pain is real. Her disappointment is real. But alongside that, it must be trusted that Allah's decision carries insight she does not possess. He is Al-Alim, the all-knowing. His knowledge is not limited by time. He does not react to events. He already knows them. He does not discover outcomes. He wrote them. When He redirects her, it is not random. It is precise. Sometimes years later, clarity arrives. She sees what could have happened. She notices traits she overlooked. She recognizes how close she was to something that would have unsettled her life. In that moment, gratitude replaces confusion. She understands that what she once saw as loss was actually mercy unfolding quietly. The future she could not see was always visible to Allah. He guarded her from what would have harmed her. He positioned her away from what would have weakened her. He closed the door not to punish her, but to guide her towards something more suitable for her growth and faith. When she accepts this reality, her heart softens. Instead of clinging to what was removed, she begins to trust what is being prepared. Instead of questioning why it ended, she begins to ask what Allah is leading her toward. And that is where peace begins, in knowing that even when she cannot see beyond today, the one who controls tomorrow is always choosing with perfect wisdom. The heart has a powerful way of convincing us that what we strongly desire must be meant for us. When emotions are deep and the connection feels intense, it is easy to interpret that feeling as a sign. The attachment grows, the imagination builds a future around it, and soon it no longer feels like a preference, it feels like destiny. But intensity is not the same as approval. A strong desire does not automatically mean something is written for you in the way you expect. The heart can become attached to what looks beautiful, comforting, or promising. It can confuse familiarity with fate. It can mistake longing for certainty. Yet divine approval is not measured by how strongly we feel about something. Allah created the heart with emotion, and emotion itself is not wrong. Love, hope, excitement, these are natural parts of being human, but those feelings must be guided. If they are not anchored in trust and patience, they can lead to assumptions that are not grounded in wisdom. Sometimes attachment grows because something fills a gap. It provides attention, validation, or a sense of direction. The heart begins to lean on it. Over time, that leaning turns into dependency. And when dependency forms, it becomes difficult to imagine life without it. At that point, it feels destined, not because it truly is, but because the heart has woven itself around it. Divine approval is something else entirely. It is not just about what feels good in the present. It includes what protects your faith, what preserves your dignity, and what secures your long-term well-being. Allah sees beyond the emotional intensity of a moment. He sees whether that attachment will draw you closer to Him or slowly pull you away. An intense desire can sometimes be a test. It reveals what holds power over your heart. It shows where your reliance is placed. If losing something feels like losing yourself, it may be a sign that your attachment has become too heavy. Destiny does not require obsession. What is truly written for you will not demand that you compromise your values or lose your peace. When attachment feels like destiny, patience becomes difficult. The mind begins to interpret every sign as confirmation. Small gestures feel meaningful. Delays feel unbearable. Doubts are ignored because the heart is already convinced. But divine wisdom does not operate through emotional pressure. It operates through balance, clarity, and guidance. Islam teaches that what is meant for you will reach you without you sacrificing your integrity. It will not require you to lower your standards or ignore red flags. It will not pull you away from your connection with Allah. If something demands secrecy, constant anxiety, or emotional instability, that is not a sign of destiny. It is a sign to pause. Attachment can also cloud judgment. When the heart is deeply invested, it becomes harder to see flaws. It becomes easier to justify what should not be justified. But Allah's protection may appear in the form of separation, not because your feelings were foolish, but because His knowledge is complete. Divine approval is measured by what brings lasting peace, not temporary excitement. It aligns with faith, not just emotion. It strengthens character, not weakens it. If something intensifies anxiety, compromises values, or distances you from remembrance of Allah, it may not be as destined as it feels. Trusting Allah means understanding that destiny does not need to be forced. What is written for you will unfold with clarity. It will not require you to lose yourself to gain it. When something is removed despite strong attachment, it may be Allah teaching you that not every strong desire is meant to be fulfilled. The heart learns maturity when it accepts this truth. Feelings are acknowledged, but they are not allowed to override faith. Longing is felt, but it is placed within the boundaries of trust. When you recognize that divine approval is more important than emotional intensity, your perspective shifts. You begin to ask not, why do I want this so much, but is this good for my faith, my future, and my akhirah? That question changes everything. Attachment may feel like destiny, but destiny is written with wisdom beyond emotion. And when you trust that wisdom, even the strongest desires begin to rest in the certainty that Allah chooses better than the heart ever could on its own. Hearing no is never easy. It feels like a door closing. It feels like something is being taken away. When the heart has invested hope into a particular outcome, rejection can feel heavy. It can shake confidence. It can bring questions. It can even make a person wonder whether their prayers were accepted. But a believer learns that not every no is a loss. Sometimes it is protection in disguise. Allah does not reject a servant out of cruelty. He does not close a door without reason. When something you desperately wanted does not happen, it is not because Allah overlooked your tears or ignored your sincerity. It is because He knows what lies beyond that door. We often define goodness by comfort. If something makes us happy in the moment, we assume it must be right. If something feels painful, we assume it must be wrong. Yet life has shown us repeatedly that not everything pleasant is beneficial and not everything painful is harmful. A medicine may taste bitter, but it heals. A sweet substance may taste good, but it can damage over time. Rejection can function the same way. When Allah says no, He may be saving you from regret you would have carried for years. He may be protecting your dignity from being compromised. He may be preventing emotional harm that would have left scars much deeper than the disappointment you feel today. The heart, however, does not immediately see this. It focuses on what was lost. It replays conversations. It imagines how things could have worked out differently. It wonders what could have been done better, but faith invites you to shift your perspective. Instead of asking, why was this taken from me? You begin asking, what was I being saved from? Allah's knowledge is complete. He knows what people hide. He knows the weaknesses that are not visible at first. He knows how situations evolve over time. You see the beginning of a story. He sees its entire conclusion. You see the promise. He sees the outcome. Sometimes rejection prevents humiliation. Sometimes it prevents betrayal. Sometimes it prevents a gradual erosion of your peace. You might have been asking for something that looked beautiful, but Allah saw the cracks beneath the surface. He saw the emotional cost. He saw the compromise it would demand. So He removed it before it consumed you. It is important to understand that protection does not always feel gentle. It can feel sharp, it can feel sudden, it can feel unfair. But protection is not defined by how it feels in the moment. It is defined by what it prevents. Imagine walking toward a path that looks clear, unaware that danger lies just ahead. If someone pulls you back firmly, you might feel startled or even upset. But later, when you realize what you were saved from, gratitude replaces frustration. Allah's no can operate in the same way. Faith grows when you accept that divine wisdom is not limited by your emotions. What you perceive as rejection may actually be redirection. What you experience as loss may actually be rescue. What feels like a setback may be preparation for something far more suitable. Rejection also refines the heart. It teaches humility, it strengthens reliance, it reminds you that not every desire is meant to define your future. When you place your trust in Allah's choices rather than your own expectations, you begin to experience peace even in disappointment. The believer understands that Allah's mercy is not always wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it is wrapped in prevention. Sometimes it appears in the closing of a door you were certain would open. Sometimes it is found in the removal of something you thought you could not live without. Clarity comes. You look back and realize that what once felt unbearable was actually protective. You see how your faith was preserved. You see how your dignity remained intact. You see how your future unfolded in a way that was more stable, more secure, more aligned with your growth. The protection hidden inside no is one of the greatest expressions of Allah's care. It is not abandonment. It is not indifference. It is a shield placed between you and harm you could not see. When you begin to trust that, your relationship with Allah deepens. You stop measuring His love by immediate comfort. You start recognizing His mercy in prevention, and you learn that sometimes the most powerful form of care is not giving you what you asked for, but saving you from what would have hurt you. That is when rejection transforms into reassurance. That is when disappointment turns into trust. And that is when you understand that Allah's no was never meant to break you, it was meant to protect you. Dignity is one of the greatest gifts Allah places in a believing woman. It is not loud, it is not proud, it is a quiet strength, it is self-respect rooted in faith. It is knowing her worth comes from her Creator, not from the approval of people. Yet sometimes, without realizing it, she moves towards situations that could slowly chip away at that dignity. Allah in His mercy guards her even before she understands what she is walking toward. A connection may seem harmless at first. Words feel kind, attention feels comforting, promises feel reassuring, but Allah sees beyond the charm. He sees how those conversations might shift over time. He sees whether her boundaries would weaken. He sees whether her heart would become attached to someone who does not honor her properly. So He interrupts it. The interruption may come from distance. It may come as sudden silence. It may come as a change of circumstances. At that moment, she may feel confused or hurt. She may think she lost something meaningful. But what she may not see immediately is that her dignity was being preserved. Dignity is not only about how others treat you, it is about what you allow. Sometimes emotions can blur judgment. When attachment grows, a person may begin accepting less than they deserve. Small compromises can become bigger ones. Words that once felt uncomfortable become normalized. Standards are quietly lower. Allah, who knows the unseen, protects her from reaching that point. He may remove a person before disrespect becomes visible. He may close a door before humiliation becomes public. He may redirect her before regret settles deeply into her heart. These acts are not random. They are shields. Regret can be heavy. Emotional damage can linger for years. Feeling used, overlooked, or undervalued can leave scars that take time to heal. Allah, in His mercy, prevents many of these wounds from ever forming. She may never know what was avoided. She may never see the full story of what could have happened. But protection does not require visibility to be real. When Allah guards her dignity, He is safeguarding her future. A woman who maintains her self-respect carries herself differently. She walks with confidence, not because of arrogance, but because she knows she did not compromise her values. She does not have to hide memories that bring shame. She does not have to explain choices that lowered her worth. Sometimes what feels like rejection is actually prevention. Allah may stop something before she becomes emotionally dependent. He may allow incompatibility to surface early. He may create circumstances that expose truth quickly. All of this can feel disappointing at the moment, but over time, clarity replaces confusion. Dignity is also connected to faith. When her heart remains intact, her connection with Allah remains steady. Situations that pull her into constant anxiety, insecurity, or compromise can weaken that connection. By removing what threatens her spiritual stability, Allah strengthens her relationship with Him. It is important to recognize that Allah's protection does not mean she will never feel hurt. Disappointment may still exist, tears may still fall, but those tears are lighter than the pain that could have followed had the situation continued. Trust grows when she understands that Allah values her honor even more than she does. He created her with purpose. He did not create her to chase validation. He did not create her to beg for attention. He did not create her to shrink herself to fit someone else's comfort. When something ends before she fully understands why, it may be Allah preserving her image, her respect, and her peace. It may be Allah teaching her that not every door deserves her presence. She begins to see the pattern. She notices how certain exits protected her from embarrassment. She recognizes how certain delays preserved her standards. She understands that her worth was never meant to be negotiated. How Allah guards her dignity is not always visible at the moment. It unfolds with reflection. It becomes clear with maturity. And when she looks back, she realizes that many of the things she once grieved were actually shields placed around her heart. That realization brings gratitude. Gratitude for the closed doors. Gratitude for the unanswered calls. Gratitude for the outcomes that did not go her way. Because in protecting her dignity, Allah was protecting her future. Pain has a way of feeling final. When heartbreak settles into the chest, it can seem like something has ended forever. The future she imagined fades, the plans she built collapse, the certainty she once felt turns into questions. In that moment, it is difficult to believe that anything good could come from disappointment. But pain is not always destruction. Sometimes it is the direction. Allah does not allow hardship without purpose. Every difficulty carries within it a lesson, a shift, or a protection that may not be visible immediately. What feels like loss can become the very force that pushes her toward growth she would not have chosen on her own. Temporary heartbreak often breaks illusions. It removes assumptions. It forces reflection. It slows her down long enough to reconsider what truly matters. When everything feels stable, self-examination can be neglected. But when something painful happens, the heart becomes more aware. That awareness can become elevated. A setback may awaken her to standards she had lowered. It may reveal weaknesses in herself that need strengthening. It may remind her that her security cannot be tied to people alone. Instead of defining herself by what she lost, she begins redefining herself by what she learned. Allah may remove something to make space for something more suitable. He may close one chapter to protect the next. What seems like a sudden ending can be preparation for a more aligned beginning. She might not recognize this immediately, but over time the pattern becomes clear. Heartbreak also deepens reliance on Allah. When comfort disappears, the heart searches for stability. If she turns to Allah during that pain, her connection with Him becomes stronger than before. That connection becomes her anchor. And a heart anchored to Allah cannot be easily shaken again. Elevation is not always about external success. It is about internal growth. It is about stronger faith, clearer judgment, and greater self-respect. Sometimes the very pain she feared becomes the reason she matures emotionally and spiritually. A temporary wound can produce permanent wisdom. When she endures heartbreak with patience, she develops resilience. When she responds with dignity instead of desperation, she gains strength. When she accepts Allah's decision, even while it hurts, her level of tawakkul rises. That rise is elevation. Often, what feels like rejection is redirection towards something more stable, more honorable, and more aligned with her future. If she had received what she initially wanted, she may never have reached that higher level of clarity. Pain can refine her character. It can teach her what she truly values. It can remind her that not every attachment is meant to remain. And once she understands that her worth is not defined by who stays or who leaves, she stands taller. Temporary heartbreak does not mean permanent loss. It can be the beginning of refinement. It can open her eyes to what she truly deserves. It can guide her toward choices made from strength rather than emotion. Allah elevates in ways that are subtle at first. He may strengthen her heart before He blesses her with something greater. He may purify her intentions before granting her stability. He may reshape her expectations so that when the right opportunity comes, she recognizes it with clarity. The pain that redirects her is not random, it is measured, it is precise. It is allowed by a Lord who sees her full journey. She may not understand it at the moment, but understanding often arrives later. She may realize that the heartbreak she once feared was actually the turning point. It prevented her from settling. It pushed her toward growth. It made her more aware, more careful, and more trusting of Allah's wisdom. That is how temporary pain can lead to permanent elevation. It lifts her beyond the version of herself that was attached to what was not meant to last. It prepares her for what is better suited to her faith and her future. And when she finally reaches that place of clarity, she understands that what once felt like the end was actually the beginning of something greater. When a woman truly accepts Allah's plan, something within her changes. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, but it is real. The restlessness that once controlled her begins to settle. The constant need to understand every detail begins to soften. She no longer fights every closed door. Instead, she trusts that if it closed, it was not meant for her. Acceptance does not mean she feels no pain. It does not mean she never hoped for something different. It means she chooses trust over resistance. She understands that Allah's wisdom is not limited by her emotions. She realizes that what He decides carries knowledge beyond her understanding. That realization gives her a new kind of strength. Before acceptance, she may have been anxious about outcomes. She may have overthought every possibility. She may have tried to control situations that were never in her control. But once she surrenders to Allah's decree, her shoulders feel lighter. She still makes an effort, she still plans, but she no longer ties her peace to results. This shift transforms how she carries herself. She does not beg for what is not written for her. She does not chase what repeatedly moves away from her. She does not compromise her dignity to force what Allah has already removed. Her confidence now comes from reliance on her Creator, not from attachment to people or circumstances. Trust becomes visible in her composure. When something does not go her way, she does not collapse. She reflects, she makes dua, she moves forward. She believes that if Allah allows it, it contains goodness, even if she cannot see it yet. Surrender is often misunderstood. Some think it is a weakness. Some think it means giving up. But in reality, surrender to Allah is one of the greatest forms of power. It frees her from being enslaved by expectations. It frees her from fear of loss. It frees her from seeking validation from those who cannot control her destiny. When she accepts Allah's plan, she becomes selective with her energy. She invests in what strengthens her faith. She distances herself from what weakens her peace. She understands that not every opportunity deserves her time. Not every connection deserves her heart. Her priorities become clearer. Her standards become firmer. Her patience becomes deeper. There is a quiet dignity in a woman who trusts Allah completely. She does not need to explain herself constantly. She does not need to prove her worth. She knows that what is meant for her will not miss her, and what misses her was never meant to stay. Her surrender does not make her passive, it makes her purposeful. She works toward what is halal and beneficial. She prays for what is good, but she leaves the final decision to Allah without bitterness. This mindset shapes her character. She becomes resilient in hardship. She becomes grateful in ease. She no longer panics at every delay. She sees setbacks as part of a bigger design. People may notice the difference. She appears calmer. She appears more grounded. That is because her trust is anchored in something stable. She is no longer swayed by every emotional wave. She has placed her heart in safe hands. Transformation does not happen overnight. It grows with reflection and experience. Every time she sees how Allah replaced something better, her certainty increases. Every time she realizes she was protected from harm, her gratitude deepens. The woman who accepts Allah's plan walks differently because she understands something powerful. Her life is not random, it is guided. Her losses are not meaningless, they are purposeful. Her delays are not neglect, they are timing. Trust becomes her strength. Surrender becomes her power. And with that foundation, she moves through life with dignity, patience, and confidence in the one who never chooses incorrectly for her. That is true transformation, when faith reshapes the way she sees everything. When Allah removes something you begged for, He is not taking away your happiness, He is protecting your future. What leaves your life by Allah's will was never meant to complete you. What is delayed was never meant to define you. And what is denied was never meant to destroy you. The woman who trusts this does not become bitter. She becomes wiser. She does not become desperate. She becomes discerning. She does not chase what runs. She aligns herself with the one who controls everything. If Allah protected you from what you asked for, it means He saw something you did not. It means your worth was too high for that outcome. It means your story is still being written with more care than you could ever write it yourself. So raise your hands again, make dua again, but this time add one sentence. Make, Ya Allah, choose for me what is best, even if it is not what I want. Because when you trust His wisdom over your desire, you don't lose, you rise.